So I thought I would, if I don't get too much feedback from the participants here, what I'll do is I'll just go through some draft features early and play around with the draft analysis tool, and then I'll get really deep into the draft functions on in some more advanced things, and then again we'll evaluate what we do with the draft analysis tool. Thank you. Copy delivery. So in our plastics week-long course, we've been putting this together for 20 years. The initially when I first started teaching that class, it was just a 2-day course, and I would say the majority of the class, half and half, was part design and tips and tricks inside of Creo, since everybody knows that's my strength. And then I would do kind of mix it up with lecture, talk about materials and maybe some horror stories about how buyers make mistakes when they buy from the cheapest vendor, and go through a wide variety of problems. So over the years, 25 years, we've put together. We've got 3 weeks of plastic part design material, which makes it customizable for a customer like Ingersoll Rand, how they're doing co-injected rubber with a TPE and a hard substrate. There's a lot of tricks that one can do with top-down design to facilitate those shapes. Here I've got some history of plastics. I'll just click on the history of plastics here and talk about some of how the word plastic evolved from being a verb to a noun, in the 50s. This is a plastic canteen, of course, but from World War II. I was quite surprised to see that the people using these during World War II complained that the water tasted like plastic, as you can imagine. But pretty neat stuff. This is a plastic bag over a machine gun from World War II to keep the rain off of it and what have you. So plastic has been around well beyond the 50s. A lot of times when I teach these courses, I do it from a kind of job interview questions perspective. I know when I interviewed at companies trying to get a plastics job, one of the questions was what materials have you used? And the material that I mentioned, the interviewer hadn't heard of before, and I could tell from the facial expression. But if I could have pulled from a little my knowledge from history, I would have probably gotten that job. The question was, what material have I used? And I said black urea, and it sounded kind of like a BS answer, But if I could have said urea was from 1919, 1918, and talked a little bit about the history of it, I think I would have gotten past that job and probably gotten the job. Another really good question that one might ask in a job interview is what's a good draft angle to put on a part? And if you have this sort of confidence, your answer would be, well, it depends on what texture you put on the part. If you don't have the right confidence, you're just going to say 1 or 2 degrees, right? But the question merits a question. So if you have that confidence, you're if you ask that question, your resume is probably going to go into the let's hire this guy pile. So interesting. I'm trying to hit a lot of these materials from which date they were sort of processed first. Some of these materials were patented twice. even polystyrene was used in World War II to keep aluminum craft from sinking. All right, so I'll get out of the history stuff, but I like to spend a full hour on the history of plastics because that's how we get young people kind of engaged. So we talk about polymers, common materials, engineered materials, elastomers, and I could talk about those for days, different materials, but also getting the in display at Walmart is kind of the holy grail. And in order to do that, your materials might need to be biodegradable. So I'm just going to click on thermoplastic blends here and see where we've got a lot of different images. SRAM, by the way, is dear to my heart. We've been doing training there since 1997, but their team created the very first plastic derailleur, and they used glass filled materials to align the glass fibers in such a direction to give them X and Y structural integrity. They didn't need structural integrity in the Z direction. So where they gated the part gave them the ability to pass their impact testing. So glass filled nylons. This is a material we used rather recently. Fortron. If you click on it with your finger, it sounds like aluminum when you click on it. We passed a 600 psi test with this material, and I honestly didn't think it would happen, but it did. So just a little bit on materials. So our class typically rolls out in that half the class is lecture and half the class is getting into Creo. But over the past 20 years, I've put together so much material on this course that I could do a 40-hour lecture. I don't know if you remember doing a 5-minute speech in high school, how hard that was. Can you imagine doing 40 hours? So what I wanted to do is just do a quick part and look at kind of putting draft on it. Here, I'm just going to double click on this thing and make it a little wider. And I'm just going to redefine this draft wall and simply hold my control key down to add to its selection set. So, and if you've had a class with Design Engine before, everything I do is about efficiency and just being faster and smarter. I'm adding to the selection set much like one would do in an algebraic expression, putting parentheses on something. So I'm just going to delete that draft and just I'll go to insert here before the post sticks out there, and I'm just going to add draft to the geometry. So if you're a SolidWorks user, we don't think to grab what you want to draft first. In SolidWorks, you grab what you want to pivot about. To me, it's kind of the same thing, but people like to make a big deal about the differences between these tools. So I'll add to it here. So you pre-select what you want to draft and then try to reach out of your pull out button. I kind of give PTC a little bit of a hard time because there's no reason to put an arrow on the tool if you get too many things here. So there's my draft tool and there's my draft analysis tool. I think PTC should just let the icon get bigger, but apparently they figured out how to do this in their Visual Basic, so they're gonna. Right, so there's my draft, and then I quickly pick what I want to pivot the draft about, and then preview. By the way, people love SolidWorks, but SolidWorks has never had a preview until 2024. Pretty wild how they get away with that. So sometimes when you get your draft and you're trying to figure out these tools on your own, like engineers do, you don't realize that you're on one of these or not. So be really mindful about which one you're grabbing. So I want to grab these other two. SolidWorks users tend to rotate the screen around and grab. I'm just going to right click, left click, and right click, left click to grab those faces that I want to draft. And there I've given myself the draft angle. Back in the past, you could only do 15 degrees draft. Now we can, why limit it to 15? So what I'm going to do now is split the draft about this draft hinge. That way it goes one way a little bit and the other way a little bit. Now, if you right click on this edge and try to fetch those rounds, it grabs everything. So in this case, I'll just add a round like this, and just be mindful that the round is parallel everywhere. One of the things in Creo 9 and 10 that irritates me a little bit, like learning new software can be irritating to us as humans, is that this icon always opens up. I haven't spent too much time looking for a config setting to turn that off. I have a feeling that there's not one. I just don't need to see this dialog box open up to be able to facilitate my draft, my rounds. But notice the round is parallel across the edge. That's because the round occurs after the draft. If I were to put the round on before the draft, this is new in Wildfire 2. If you hover over this edge and right click once, you get all the edges. So that's probably one of my only superhero powers. I remember when that was new. And then my draft angle, the draft didn't fail and the draft split now creates a tapered round. So depending on the DNA that you're trying to deliver through to your product, that's a big deal, whether it's tapered or parallel. And we use the term DNA because a Dell laptop has parallel specular highlights, and an Apple product has more normal to the edge geometry. So now what I'm going to do is click on the part and click on this arrow that I've added draft analysis to this tool. So I'll move my zoom window out of the way and talk about draft analysis. So I'm really excited to see the draft analysis tool. I would say it's mature. What I mean to say is I want to be able to dock this analysis tool because I use it so much, right? Most of the products that the design engine product development team gets hired to do is geared at plastic products or die casting or forging or some kind of manufactured part. But what I want to do is actually click on the part name itself, and then I pick what the pull direction is going to be. And then it gives me this sort of French flag color here with blue at the top, red at the bottom. And what this is indicating is 3 degrees is the number I'm trying to test for. I'll put 6 degrees and then go ahead and save the analysis and hit OK. So what I was hoping is that saved analysis would dock right here. So if you've been playing with Creo 7, 8, and 9, you can move these windows around, kind of like how SolidWorks is doing it. But my saved analysis isn't quite being docked properly yet. So I hope that I've been pushing PTC to allow me to do this for a good 10 years, but I'm not quite there yet. So I'm just going to take my draft angle and set it to 2 degrees. So I've got 2, right? And I'll hit Control G, and the color of my saved analysis now is back to just 2 color, 3 colors. You can see the white. So let me explain how that kind of works. All right, so I'm gonna hit the pencil or double click on the analysis tool, which will let me take it back from 6 back to 2. So now that I've got these 2 colors, it's very clear that I've got a clear and delineated parting line. If I close out of here, I have to come back here to saved analysis to fetch it. Now, if you're into behavioral modeling or generative design, which is the sort of new buzzwords going on, artificial intelligence assist, you could save an analysis as a feature and have that feature drive subsequent features from that analysis. If you wanted to talk more about that, I'm pretty excited about that kind of stuff. All right, so now what I've got is a post sticking out of here, and the post also has draft on it. So one of the big mistakes that young people make when they develop a plastic product is they'll put draft on everything except for a round post, and let's do analysis on that one. Okay, so you can see I've got what would look a bit like an eyelet. Everything above this continental divide is drafted in one direction, and everything below is drafted the other. Hey, and if there's any questions, can you guys just interrupt and speak up? I'm okay being interrupted. Although in one recent meeting, somebody asked me about DFM, and I was the idiot that said, "What's DFM?" I'm not an acronym guy. All right, so I'm going to go to insert now before the eyelet part, and look how you've got this sort of gradient occurring here. So if there's texture on this part, which most parts have some bit of texture on them, it's gonna get what we call a scrape mark in the tool as it starts to wear the texture off the tool, and we get kind of a shiny spot, which is the sign of an amateur engineer doing plastic parts. You know, I don't think my first plastic part had that, but definitely saw a lot of scrap parts. You know, after about 10,000 parts off the mold. I think Ryobi is one of the examples that we have a bunch of Ryobi power tools taken apart in boxes, so we can show young people in our plastic part design different examples of bad product design. This would give me a scrape mark. Go ahead.
Quick question. What polymer are Legos made from?
So the typical Lego block is an ABS, but they'll use a wide variety of parts, different types of plastics as well. And of course there's no texture on a Lego part, or little texture, so they can get away with less draft. But the parts that Lego uses for axles and these types of things is often a nylon, and the hitches that you would hook up to drive different Lego parts around are often at polycarbonate, so they don't stick to just one material. But the blocks are all the cheapest type of polymer, which is the ABS plastic. Good question. So this part right here takes a little bit of extra time to put on, and I'm just going to build that part for you real quick. At Design Engine, we make up a lot of different names for things, and we call this the eyelet, because we have to we're not using the draft feature to organize our shape. We're using a sort of, it looks kind of like my eye. And all the draft angles need to be able to show in a detailed drawing, so you can prove to your manager that you've got this thing under control. So what I do is I put these sort of crowbar handles on here. If you've had a surfacing class from Design Engine in the past, I see Tim on here, that these handles are going to be dimensioned very specifically, so I can control the draft angle and show that in a drawing. So Design Engine, we're big on handles. Now I'll drive that to 10, and the entire thing gets a little bit bigger. So I'll control my eyelet relative to the part that I'm trying to seat upon, And what I like to do is change this angle around a little bit to see how it's going to behave. And then I sort of continually dial in the constraints necessary. Here, I'll bump it back to 11. And now I've got this eyelet sitting on there just right. SolidWorks has some really cool tools to organize these types of dimensions where it doesn't require this axis. By the way, I think we're going to get that in Creo 11. I'm also told that Creo 11 splash page is going to use one of the products that our product development team did for Ingersoll Rand. I'd be very excited to see that co-injected rubber drill. All right, so that's kind of a nice way to organize this. Now, I would typically drive all the draft angles using an equation. So relations and parameters often work together. SolidWorks does the same thing with their parameters. They call them global variables. So what I would suggest to young people is to control the draft angle inside of here with a number. See that? I gave it a parameter. Then I can double click on these and type in draft right here, and it'll when I hit enter twice, it automatically adds that as a relation. And I'll talk a little bit. If you've seen me do plastic talks before in the conference, you know, this is nothing new. For many of you have already had this plastics class probably. So now what I do is I come up to my relations and look at it. All these are tied in here. So a smart intern's not going to get confused. And I come in here and I can change it to a bigger number, hit Control G, and the whole thing just updates. Any questions so far? Stuff. So this is a project that we do in our Learn to Design course. We might not put all the draft on it in on the Friday of the course, but this product's got a whole bunch of interferences on it. So if you have some young people that have under 5 years on Creo, that Learn to Design course is ideal for them. I would say the sooner they take it, the better they're going to be utilized within your organization. And if you've got over 5 years, you probably wouldn't get bored in class, but it'd be a good one to audit for your team. So what I'm going to do is just open up one of these parts and show you that it has that split draft on there like I was doing. But I'm not using the split draft in the eyelet sense on this geometry. So if there's no texture on the part, the mold's going to pull apart and you're probably not going to see the scrape mark. And you could probably get away with no draft right in this 1 millimeter section. Not ideal, but you could probably, the Chinese mold shop probably wouldn't even point it out. All right, so the inside has draft as well. And if you roll around and look at it, you can see the inner wall there. That's kind of a quick little litmus test that many of us experts would do. But you want to kind of, get in the habit of not skipping your draft analysis tool, right? So I have it in my pop-up window here. Not everybody has been customizing this stuff, but I don't want to do just a surface. I want to do the whole part. And all right, so I'm looking at the draft check. So anything white should hit you in the head like a ton of bricks. That doesn't have any draft on that face. So if you send this to a mold shop, chances are they've got your manager's email address. So they're going to say, hey, you're missing draft here, here, and here. And nobody wants their manager to have to notice that they forgot to put draft on the stuff. So be mindful of that. This part here has a hole in the inside. That's not going to come out of a mold just right. That's what we would call a captive steel. And the problem is that the shell is just in the wrong spot. So when you reorder the shell to occur before those dog ears occur, then the part is how we kind of want it. Yep. All right, so in this case, I don't have any draft on this wall. I don't see a draft feature in the geometry. Nor do I have it over here. So I have to go and add it. So as you know, doing any kind of engineering work, and anytime you do something that might, like whack-a-mole, cause other problems. So I'm going to add my draft to that wall. I'm going to pick my draft hinge. This tool automatically snaked its way around the whole product. And then I kind of resume all the features. So this is going to be a captive piece of geometry right here. There's no way I can mold underneath, I'll try to draw with zoom and show you what it's not letting me do here. Open up the zoom software here. So everything below this wall is not going to allow me to pull out of the mold. But if I could create a cut here to do something kind of like that, and bite in just a little bit, you could see I could get that with a straight pull. So out of the mold. So I have a little bit of a problem. And one of the things that we do in that week-long class is help young people envision and picture what the steel is going to look like. And in this case, I could probably just do a split draft. Make this go the other direction just a little bit. Okay, and now I'm going to be able to pull that out of the mold just right. In this case, you might not notice, but the protrusion that I added here is sitting on top of a face that's got the minus draft to it. So that's a really easy mistake to make. If you sent that to the mold shop or to a prototype shop, they would tell your manager that you have no business doing plastic parts, So this is kind of interesting. There's some really neat tricks inside of Creo that can help. No, this part was built. This is one of the training exercises from 25 years ago. This part doesn't have any sketches before the extrude, So what I'm going to do is use edit references to get this geometry to place. Here, I'll just use edit definition to get the sketch to occur. Let's see. I'll put it on the center datum plane. This will look a little awkward. So instead of on the side of the part that's got draft on it, I'll make it go to the center datum plane. That's awkward because my extrude isn't going to be long enough. So what I'm eager to show are a lot of cool new tricks from Creo 3 on. So there's my part. It's sticking out, but I don't want any of this geometry, right? So I'll edit definition on this part, and in the other direction, make it go a negative number, okay? So this part's not letting me drag it in a negative number because it's from 1997, But what was new in Creo 3 is I can right hold down. Well, you can always right hold down on these little dots. Most people don't know you can do that. But you can tell it to reference this face. That's new in Creo 3. So as a person growing up racing, everything that about my being is to be 1% faster. Taken from the Atomic Habits book. All right, so I'm going to make this go a little longer. I'll take it back to the sketch and change its sketch plane back to here. Okay, when I check out of that, it's going the wrong way, no big deal. I'll just make it go far enough. And then in the second direction, it won't, Creo 3 will let you go, Creo 4 will let you go negative number. But since this feature is still so old, it won't let me drag it in a negative number, but I can hold down on it and tell it to reference something else. I know I get some feedback from some of the Milwaukee Creo user group people saying they always catch a little nugget of something cool in my talks. So I'm excited to keep sharing little tips and tricks. But don't forget to recommend training, you know. Okay, so the inside doesn't have draft now, so I've got to organize that. So I'm just kind of like, where do I put my draft? Should I just keep going into insert mode before this stuff exists? I think it's probably good practice to go as far back in the model tree as possible, but not necessary. So now this inside wall has to get drafted. This tangentially snakes all the way around. SolidWorks, get a left click, right hold down to reach tangent edge. That was new in SolidWorks 2012. I don't know how they got away with having that in there for so long. All right, so there's 2 degrees draft. And if I resume all these features, I hope nothing fails. Okay, and look how my wall is referencing my rib, my ear, my dog ear there is referencing the edge that was there before. So I'm just noticing that. So maybe I just reordered the draft a little bit after that boss, right? But all those things are typical things that experts, you have to be extremely observant to notice stuff anyway. And those are all things we do. I'm assuming everybody on the call is expert status, because that's what experts do, is join all these conferences, and try to do this learning. All right, so that part has it looks like he's ready to pull out of the mold just right. If I had to guess, I'd say that doesn't have draft on it, that doesn't have draft on it, and there's going to be a little white spot on the wall here. So let's do a quick draft analysis. I've got my saved analyses. I was wondering if there's one, apparently not. So I'll create a new draft analysis. With Creo 10, we've got the solid bodies, so I can right click through here and grab the body and then pick what I want to organize my draft with. And sure enough, I've got no draft on all those white spots, just like I had kind of guessed. Now you might be able to get away with these no draft situations, but those are conversations you have with your mold shop. Okay, so now I've got another part to add draft to, but I have 10 or 15 minutes left. And we don't need to do all of these, but any questions so far? Is there anything that anybody wants to see? I'm just going to close out of this one and try to get into something maybe a little bit more intense, like surfacing. So when we do, oftentimes when our product development group is hired, it's not because companies don't have time to do it, it's because they can't do it. So a lot of what Design Engine does is very surfacing intensive. Part of my job this month is to offer our capabilities overview to customers. So if you wanted to take a look at some of the products, we've done everything from AR-10s and AR-15s to Ingersoll Rand drill housings and bicycles, and we've got a pretty big team.
Hey Bart, I got a question for you.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, Steve here. Hey, when you were collecting corners, you said hold down the right button, and it'll collect all 4 corners for you. Now, I might mix this up with SolidWorks. I've been on and off so many different systems over the few years here.
Where do you work, Steve?
I work at Hydroforce in Vernon Hills in Lincolnshire.
Sure.
Yeah.
I've driven by there quite a bit.
Stop in.
Yeah.
Okay, but yeah, give me a call. So anyway, in the old days, I remember Pro E, which I think it was when I was using it. We used to collect surfaces and collect lines by using the Shift key or the Control key.
Okay, can you see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, so just to reiterate the obvious, right?
Yeah.
This orange sketch is the rectangle that I extruded, the sketch plane.
Mhm.
Okay. So and this might sound irritating, but this was new in Creo too. So if I hover over that edge and don't click on it, just right click on it, it fetches all four of the edges that went up. If
Can
you
I
want to try
control
that,
now if I don't want some of those edges, I take, say we had 16 edges there and I only
okay,
want
yeah, here,
14 of
check.
them.
Yeah, yeah. Um, I don't know if control's gonna let you deselect some of them. If you just pick one and hold the control key down, it's gonna fetch the ones that you want. Notice I didn't pick this far back one over here. But you could right click through here and grab that one too if you wanted to. I just did not.
So my
And when you
biggest,
let go of the control key, it's gonna bring this pop-up window. So I try to get, you know, folks that take the Creo update training or whatever class, it's just to be really mindful of this pop-up window. The more experience you got, the harder it is to, see it. And now if I wanted to add or subtract to it, I could come over here and add to it, holding the control key down. But when I did it, this is kind of interesting. When I did this, I didn't hold the control key down at all. I got my hand up in the air and I just hover over it and I'm about to left click on it. Then I realize I want to right click to grab the entire edge. Now let me show you one thing that's unique about this. Now, if you hold the control key down, it doesn't let you deselect stuff if you only want like
okay.
16. But here's how this works. This is pretty cool. And SolidWorks doesn't do this type of stuff. So it could be really kind of badass. This is one of the reasons why we could do these Ingersoll Rand power drills in such a short amount of time, because we take strategic advantage of all these cool things inside of Creo. Now, what I've done is I've just given myself an extra edge. And what's going to happen is Creo is going to automatically round all those edges too. It's the intent edge.
Yes.
That's why you can't deselect it when you do it. Now, if you want to do just 14 of them, you got to do like SolidWorks and just grab all 14 of the 16.
Well, that proposes really my final and my main question is this trick. So the shift key, we used to be able to take and pick one corner and then anything between that corner or that surface or whatever you're trying to grab, you do a shift key, it takes everything up around the part to that point where you did the second selection during the shift key. So shift would take everything in between, and of course control would do what each one individually. So I wanted to know if now I had trouble using that in Creo 7 now where I'm at, and we had Creo 4 prior to this. That's when I was trying to use it, and it couldn't work for me. And I'm going, geez, in the old days I used to be able to do that. So
Yeah,
I'm
I,
asking
I,
you,
I have the same
since you're an expert.
conversations with myself.
Oh yeah,
Do you have an
it's almost a daily
example
event.
of where I can play with the shift tool off the top of my head?
No, you know what? Not at the general moment. I'm not in that
Here's
position.
one I think I can think of. I'm going to create a sketch on this wall, and I'm going to use the offset edge to kind of offset one in. Let's do project and then offset. So this is new in 9 and 10, and it's more like how we do it in surfacing. So people who are really good at, we are all good at sketcher mode, they find this really irritating. So what I'm going to do is hold the shift key down and move my mouse around.
Yeah,
That's pretty cool,
that is.
but a little different than how we typically roll. So a lot of people ask me, "Hey Bart, how do you turn off that new crap? I don't like it." Well, you probably want to just get used to it. So
That's why I
here,
try to tell everybody, don't turn it off. Try to
it's
adapt to it.
it's hard as
Yeah,
humans. We don't like new stuff.
I had to train people to get off the drafting board to get into CAD back in the late 80s. So
I
showing
did the
age
same
here.
thing, man.
Yeah, I did seminars on it. And when I showed them a tractor that was done international harvester wise across the whole back wall of the room, I said, how long would you think it'll take you to draw that up manually? And they said, well, that'd take months probably. And I said, well, I did it in one day.
Yeah,
So,
that's awesome. And
yeah.
the drawing's perfect.
Yeah,
I get it.
it might not be correct, but it was perfect.
Thanks for
But
the
thank you.
questions.
And
Yeah,
if I do find a method, I'll send you a note on it. I'm a first time here. Lawrence Schleer was always in here a lot with you guys. He had turned me on to this today, so I
oh,
enjoy it.
good,
Thank you very much. And
cool. Nice to meet you.
you too. Thanks.
I like meeting people. I'm gonna try to put a full round on this. This is always kind of blows me away. There's a round, right? Hold down, full round. I love Creo. I think in my retirement, I would just play in Creo and try to CNC whatever I make, you know. Okay, I was on track to kind of go in and utilize surfaces in my plastic part design arena. And you know, I get 15 minutes left, and I'll open it to some questions. Um, I'm thinking about all the stuff I haven't talked about, right? And by the way, we teach this class in SolidWorks and Creo. So I'm just scrolling down to some of the CAD examples here, and I'm going to go into this armrest. If you've seen me present surfacing at these Creo conferences in the past, this is one that you know we've probably done. This green surface is what we call a handle, you know, and I often talk about these handles in terms of wrecking your dirt bike. You know, you're going to bend your handlebars the minute the handlebars hit the ground. So what the rich kids did is they get new handlebars, right? So what I'm doing is I'm stretching the crowbar around. By the way, I taught this class in Taiwan to specialized bicycles some time back, and you know everybody spoke English pretty good, but they had to Google what a crowbar was. You know, everybody laughed. So look how you can just kind of ridiculously flexure this thing around. So that's a crowbar. Now I'm going to delete this surface here, and I'll just delete the bottom one too, just to kind of get my example more simplistic. This is what we call a parting surface. It's the parting surface that generates the parting line. I'm just going to color it green like I do. I'll hide it. Now, if you've got any experience in surfacing, what I try to do is to get young people to hide the projected curves first, and then I generate these geometries. Here, I'm going to hit the shift key to get up there, control, and then shift to get all the way around. And then I think control points should be before constraints because I like to get, my brain likes to move left or right. But I'm here, I'm going to go to the control points and go piece to piece, and then back to my constraints. All right, so instead of choosing the constraints per se, what I do is I like to close this and use these sort of, I call them cheese colored balls, but you guys in Wisconsin know that the only way you get yellow cheese is to add red dye to the cheese. You can't get yellow cheese anywhere else in the world except for United States. Does anybody know why cheese is yellow? Besides adding dye to it to make it yellow? It's because the cows in the 1800s, all the fields were made of saffron, not just wheat or grass. It was saffron, and the cows would eat the saffron, right? And that makes yellow milk. So there's my part, and this surface is how I'm organizing my draft. So quickly you quit using the draft tool. In any kind of product that we do, our draft is going to be generated with this sort of yellow green ribbon. In Creo, I tend to color these red, red transparent, but that's how we've done it in wildfire. You know, we'd use that green transparent surface. So anybody on the team would, you know, most people that hire a design engine have already had a class before, you know, so it's the way we sell product development. But, you know, anybody on the team would know that anything green like that is just a tool to drive things. Now I'm going to go to a layer here, and I'm just gonna create a layer called tools, you know, and I would organize those geometries to be on a layer called tools. That way, you know, when you're making a detailed drawing, you don't have to actually see them, right? So any questions about that? Who's got some surfacing experience, you know? Next level stuff, you know, with Design Engine's quite well known for surface modeling. We've been teaching surfacing classes for 25 years and Alias, Rhino, SolidWorks, Creo. All right. Any questions, thoughts, hellos, comments? If I emailed you in the last 4 hours, at least say hello.
Hello.
Whose voice was that?
Mine.
Oh, Liz. So you know, consider taking a class at Design Engine. You may not have my my email address. I'll
Hey Bart, are you coming to the April event?
you know, I was half thinking about it. I used to fly for free on United, but my mom gave her she retired from United. She gave her tickets to some married couple from her church. So I don't have those anymore. But I was thinking about coming. Whose voice is that?
This is Brett from
Yeah,
last month.
sure. I'm excited to come to the next conference in person, you know. And April's a little bit warmer than February. So I'd be more apt to do it, you know. But I'm sure you know, Deb would make room for a presentation or something. So yeah. Yeah, I think for sure I'll come. Yeah. No, but I'll just put my email address up here. So
Hey Bart, you're on the agenda for speaking.
oh, and then I better get that.
But I mean, if you need to cancel, obviously we would understand.
Oh, no, yeah. Well, you know, if I buy the airfare now, it's probably only going to be $100, right? What's the week for the next event?
4/26, so the last week of April. I like to go right around Cinco de Mayo, but I couldn't get that Friday, so it's the
Okay.
week before.
Is it a Friday?
It is a Friday, yeah.
Okay.
And
Liz, will you come with me if we go up there?
Of course.
just so
Liz,
people know,
is
I've
one of
been
my-
using, sorry, I was gonna say, just so people know, I've been using Google Docs, so whatever's on our website is the latest and greatest that I know, so check back to the BadgerUG website if you want information on 4/26.
Yep. Hey, and if you guys have any suggestions for other presentations, I think getting into co-injected rubber and how I delineate all that geometry for power drills might be a little bit deep, but I'm down with sharing any techniques that you guys feel comfortable chewing on. Has anybody done any co-injected rubber, soft touch rubber on their products before?
Yes, but it's been a while.
Yeah, Tim. Yep. So
Oh, we've got some noise, I don't know, can everybody hear that?
that's probably Tim snow skiing right now. But all right, well, if you will, take a look at the Design Engine website and kind of poke around. Consider sending me an email saying hi, and I look forward to meeting you, Brett, in real life in April. And thank you for everyone's time.